What's up, everybody? It's a new week, and that means we're back with an all new preview of All American. And in this one, we'll be giving you guys a little synopsis breakdown and some other things that we might witness in this upcoming episode, which premieres tonight at 8/7 Central on the CW. And of course, if you can't catch it tonight, you'll be able to watch it for free tomorrow in the CW app. So, no worries there, but. Without any further ado, let's hop right into what we've got to break down. And, this one, everything we're about to break down here today should definitely be good. So, here we go. Let's hop into it and, kind of go over what we might see and what to expect from that. So, to start this episode, we'll kind of give the official synopsis for episode 10. And, then we'll talk about what I think that may mean for this episode and for future episodes, So, all right, here we go. Basically with the synopsis here. Spencer is feeling the pressure and knows he needs to try to have the game of his life as he is still trying to follow his dream of playing football. Jordan makes a risky choice when it comes to football. Olivia attends a new Narcotics Anonymous in search of a sponsor, but is worried about making the wrong choice. Coop reveals some information to Layla about her dad. Meanwhile, Billy and Laura are shocked when they hear what Jordan has been keeping from them. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll be breaking down everything we heard there in the promo in the synopsis basically, and what I think it could mean moving forward. So we'll kind of start with Spencer and the team, and then we'll kind of keep progressing on as, with what we hear. So once again, the synopsis states that Spencer is feeling the pressure and knows he needs to have the game of his life as he is still trying to follow his dream of playing football. So, when I first heard this for myself and it said that he was feeling the pressure, I personally felt like he was still feeling the pressure to do it all for the football team, in order to win games. But, once I kind of read it fully and I realized it's more so pressure to play well so that he can get a good offer from a school on the table. And of course, this is a crucial element to where the show goes moving forward. And, this is because obviously he's the main character, and seeing a scenario wherein he couldn't get a good offer from a school would definitely make you wonder what may happen next. But, obviously you hope he can have a really good showing over these next couple of games and through the playoffs in order to get a shot to go to the school that he wants. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens and hope for the best for him because, in a way, I feel like if he isn't able to get an offer, then he's just going to be kicking himself, and that'll just be more fuel to that massive fire he's got going on. So, let me know what you guys think. Can Spencer get a good offer from a school? And also, where could he commit? Obviously UCLA was one of his top candidates, but, could we see a scenario where another school opens up to him? It's definitely interesting because I think, obviously he's the main character. So like, I feel like if another place does open up to him, then that could very well, kind of help, maybe kind of put the show in a position to go a different direction, for next season or, at some, we're not 100% sure if season 4 will be like based in college yet, but I obviously wouldn't be too surprised if it is. So, it's definitely interesting, like I mentioned, and I'm interested to see where he will go to school if he does get a good offer, and we'll just have to wait and see, hope for the best, because obviously if he can't, like I said, that's just more fuel to that fire, that he's gotten, that would just tear him down, at a point where he really doesn't need it, So, now that we've kind of talked about what these games mean for Spencer, and his future in football, let's kind of just talk about the whole team in general in Crenshaw, So, all in all, obviously you hope that they're able to win this game and keep their playoff hopes alive. But, obviously this next game for them is the homecoming game. And, just the thought of it being homecoming kind of makes you think, like, of course there's going to be some drama, but if there is, then hopefully it's nothing too drastic, or nothing, hopefully nothing too drastic happens that may prevent them from making the playoffs or at least making a run in the playoffs. So, other than that, thought, this is the time that everybody on this team just needs to ball out, and get a win. And I think we will see Spencer kind of go off in this game, doing all he can. But, knowing the writers, this game could very well be a close one. And for me, this game could go a few different ways. First of all, I don't really see them getting blown out because I think that would just take away a lot of that suspense that we would get if it were a close one. But who knows? Like I said, though, I don't really see this happening. So, anyways, now we'll kind of start to get into the ways I can see this game going, and we'll start with a game that results in a comeback, which is kind of what we've seen in the first couple of games that we got a chance to see. In the first one, we saw Chris start, and they didn't play all that well, but once Darnell came in to start the second half, they nearly came back and, fell one kick short of tying the game. And, of course, they have fixed that issue, but we'll get into that a little bit later on in this part of the video. But, anyways, in the other game, we saw Chris was kind of struggling with some demons, from his past. He was worried about getting hurt again, and, he wasn't really throwing to Spencer because he was the one who nearly caused him to be paralyzed. And, as we know, he was able to overcome those, and they won that game. So, all in all, this is really only the third game, I think, that we'll be getting a good, taste of. And, hopefully all goes well, but I can definitely see a comeback happening in this one just because they have been known to do that. And, it is homecoming, so why not make it more dramatic? But, part of me thinks that, okay, I feel like they've been playing a lot of games in that particular fashion. So, at some point it has to end, right? And, that's kind of what leads me to my next scenario wherein they play this game consistently close and come out with a win. And, now this would be the most interesting scenario in my opinion because nobody seems to be giving an inch. And, it would be either someone's mistake or someone's superb play that wins the game. And, obviously a comeback win is one thing, but I think if they were to play a consistently close game without giving an inch, then I feel like they would have that confidence to say that they were able to play in a tightly contested game all 60 minutes and come out of it with a win, and that would help boost their confidence. And, in those clutch moments, that's kind of where they need to come up big because, if that is the case in this game, because, if they can make the playoffs, there'll be plenty of those to come by. So, like I said before, I think this would definitely make for the most interesting scenario. But anyways, now we're kind of on to the final scenario wherein Crenshaw comes out of this game with a dominant win. And, of course, this would be great to see. And I think this would just kind of prove that they're more than capable of making a run at state and that other teams should probably look out for them. And, of course, the thing about a dominant win is that it means more than likely that everyone was able to come together and play as one unit. And, I think that is one thing that Spencer needs to work on as a leader, helping everybody come together as one and making sure that each and every player is holding themselves accountable and doing what they need to be doing to help the team win. But, anyways, I think that a dominant win would play in large part due to some of the pieces that they brought in, including Nani, who, as we know, will most likely be the new kicker down there in Crenshaw. And I think it'll also be in large part due to the tutoring process, including Jabari, having some of their guys back. So obviously that's why it would be a great way to see things go this way for them in this game, knowing that what they're doing is working, and that they have what it takes to make a run at state to save the school, So all in all, let me know what you guys think about every scenario I talked about. And, could you guys see them lose? I personally think they'll be able to take this one. But, again, could you see them losing? Or, if you think they come out of this with a win, how do you think they take it? Like comeback fashion, a consistently close win, or, a game where they just ball out and dominate, So it's definitely a lot to think about, and I think that all those ways of winning would give them a lot of confidence, heading into probably the last game of the regular season before the playoffs. But just let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear some other opinions on this, and hopefully they can, because obviously if they don't win this game, then that kind of defeats the purpose of trying to make a run, and it would just be devastating to see for Spencer and everything, especially because if they do lose, that would probably be Spencer's last chance to impress some scouts, from good schools. So obviously you wouldn't really like to see it end that way, and hopefully they can get a win here and stay alive for another week. So moving on now. Next in the synopsis, we see that Jordan has to make a risky choice when it comes to football, and for me personally, I'm kind of guessing this has something to do with his apparent injury. We see him go to the hospital for. So in a way, it's kind of like Spencer last season. When he got shot and had to decide whether or not he would get surgery to remove the bullet. In order to keep playing football. But anyways, as for Jordan, we're not really sure what this risky choice might be because we don't really know the extent to his injury just yet. I mean, obviously it put him in the hospital, so there could definitely be something permanent that he has to live with, that forces him to make a risky choice. But, I'm definitely curious to see just what the choice is, of course, and how it may affect him if he continues to play football. And it would definitely be a big move for the show moving forward if he decides not to play as a result of this injury that he suffered. So, all in all, let me know what you guys think about this. What could be the risky choice that Jordan will have to make, and what may be the injury that he suffers from that forces him to make a risky choice? It's definitely a lot to think about. And like I said, we won't really know until we see the episode, I think, but it should be good. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens and hope that whatever does happen is what's best for Jordan moving forward, whether that's continuing to play or, deciding to call it quits. So, it's definitely a lot to think about. And, obviously in my in one of my previous videos where I talked about what may happen to Jordan as a result of this injury, I was saying, could we see him pass as a result of this? Kind of hearing the synopsis and, hearing that he's going to need to make a choice, that kind of makes me feel like, okay, he's probably not going to see him pass as a result of this. But, obviously earlier while I was talking, I was saying, could he come out of this with a permanent injury, or something of that sort that affects him. So that, like I said, that could have something to do with that risky choice, and we'll just have to wait and see. So we'll find out tonight, though. It should be good. And it's a lot to think about. So next we're talking about Olivia, and in the synopsis we see that she's attending a new Narcotics Anonymous and is in search of a sponsor, but she doesn't want to make the wrong choice. And of course, if you haven't seen last week's episode, feel free to check it out. But anyways, we saw that Leslie, Olivia's old sponsor, was imprisoned for falling back into her addiction and trying to steal from her parents' house to get her next fix. But her parents pressed charges, because she didn't really give them a choice. So, obviously that means Olivia needs a new one, and I understand the fact that she's skeptical about making the wrong choice because it's like, in a way, she doesn't want her new sponsor to be in a similar situation as Leslie, wherein they can't be for her because they have too many problems of their own, and of course that makes this a really important decision. And, all in all, you hope that she's able to find somebody that's credible and will be able to be there for her in the tough times when she's having thoughts about going back to her addiction and everything, because we all know that this decision is super important in terms of like Spencer and Olivia's relationship, and her relationship with, her parents and Jordan, So I kind of talked about this in my last episode, the episode 9, reaction and breakdown. I feel she needs to get back to 100% in order to have a shot at being with Spencer. Of course, while we're talking about this, I'm definitely hoping that we can start to see Billy and Laura being the parents that we know they can be, and be there as her support system so that she doesn't really have to rely on her sponsor 24/7, I think they can be, I just really hope that they don't miss anything that might lead to Olivia thinking it's okay to drink. But, the thing for me about Olivia and her drinking at this point is that she realized in the last episode that her drinking this time around wasn't any different than the first time, and that she didn't have any control because, she wasn't thinking about anybody or even herself, so it's like she wouldn't go back into her addiction knowing that, right? I mean, I sure hope that's the case, and hopefully she's able to find a good sponsor, because obviously it will be tough for Billy and Laura to be there to support her all day, every day with the things that they have going on. But, I think if a scenario does come where they need to attend to, then Billy and Laura will be able to drop whatever they're doing and, focus on Liv. So outside of that, though, a sponsor will be key to be there for her through any tough times. And I do think that through the help of her, her parents and Jordan and her friends and her sponsors, she will be able to overcome this addiction and move on to the next phase in her life, which hopefully leads her and Spencer back to one another, because obviously that's what we're all hoping for. And, let me know what you guys hope to see for Olivia in this episode. And, hopefully she's able to make the right decision when it comes to finding a sponsor that can be there for her, possibly in a moment wherein Billy and Laura can't, and everybody else. But, we'll have to wait and see what happens and, hope for the best decision in the long run, because obviously you want what's best for her, and, she's obviously a big part of this show as is. So, let me know what you guys thought about everything I talked about there, and I'll try my best to get back to you. It's definitely a lot to unpack, and hopefully she's able to overcome that, overcome kind of that thing she has about being skeptical about picking the right one, and, just consider the options and make the right decision. So it's definitely a lot to think about, and, like I said, hopefully we get what's best. So, okay, now we're kind of talking about the fact that a Coop apparently reveals some information to Layla about her dad. And, to be completely honest with you, I don't really have a sense for what this information might be. The only thing I can't completely remember that could be what she tells her about would be that her dad stole Patience's song. But, I can't really remember if Layla knows about that already or not. So if you guys know, feel free to just comment down below and, let me know. I'll try my best to get back to you. But, if she doesn't know, then that could be what I could see her telling Layla about. Or, who knows? It could be something completely new and different that we had no knowledge of prior to this. So, that's all I've got for that. But, just let me know if Layla knows about her dad stealing Patience's song, because I honestly don't really remember. And if not, could that be what she finds out? Or if she does know, could we see something new that we had no knowledge of that puts things into perspective for us, or that makes things complicated, like between Layla and her dad? It's definitely a lot to think about, and I'm curious to see what happens. And, obviously, when we watch, this isn't necessarily one of the main things that you look out for, but it could definitely make things interesting for Layla and her dad, maybe even Coop and Patience. So we'll keep an eye on it and, see what happens in tonight's episode. It should be good, and, we'll just have to wait and see what this confession is. So, it's going to be interesting. And, okay, now we're kind of on to possibly the biggest point of this episode, and the last part of the synopsis here that kind of states the fact that Billy and Laura are shocked when they hear what Jordan has been keeping from them. And obviously the implications of this sentence in the synopsis are obvious. It looks like Jordan and Simone's marriage is going to come out in this next episode. So I kind of talked about this in one of my previous videos, but I thought that there was a very real possibility that Billy and Laura would find out about this in the hospital. And again, they may not find out in the hospital, but, I don't really see that happening. So anyways, this will definitely kind of make things interesting, and I'm curious to see how Billy and Laura will find out about it. I talked about this a little bit in one of my previous videos, but, in a hospital, I think there could be a scenario wherein Simone has to sign something on Jordan's behalf, like as his wife. It could be a situation wherein only family is allowed to go in and see him, and Simone will come out as his wife in order to visit him, or something of that sort. Any way that it comes out, I feel like is definitely going to be a little bit drama filled, and that this will definitely be one of those things that Billy and Laura will be upset with themselves about as parents. Of course they'll be upset with Jordan, and like I've said before, I think once they realize that Jordan did it, because he, it wants to be there for her at every moment. He's clearly in love with her. I think they'll start to put some of the blame on themselves for not knowing it. Some other things to think about throughout this process is that this is kind of what Jordan wanted to happen, as we saw in the last episode. And although it may not be the way he wanted to have it happen, the secret is now out and they'll have to live with the consequences that may come with it. But remember, Jordan said that as long as it means he gets to celebrate Simone as his wife, then it'll be worth it, and we'll see if he changes course on that at any point, or, if he continues to stick to his word. It's definitely kind of a lot to think about. Will whatever happens make him regret, coming out with it, or, will he continue to say, okay, this will be worth it once it's all over? So, anyways, I think another thing to consider is that I'm sure Jordan might be kind of glad that it happened this way, because, of course, we know that he wanted to come out in the last episode, but Simone didn't. And, I think this scenario kind of forced them to admit that they're married, being in the hospital and all, which I think we'll kind of see how Jordan and Simone handle this and whether or not their marriage will last, which kind of leads me to a scenario we could see as a result of Billy and Laura finding out, and that is forcing them to get a divorce. And, now this would definitely be a scenario that makes things interesting moving forward. And I say this because I think if this happened, then things would get weird with Jordan and Billy and Laura, as well as with Jordan and Simone. And now, of course, things would get interesting with Jordan and his parents, because he'd be upset, with their decision to make him get a divorce. And, honestly, I feel like if that were to happen, he'd wish they hadn't found out, kind of like I was saying before. But in terms of things with Jordan and Simone, I think that things would be really weird, because I don't know if they would continue to date given everything that happened. And that would obviously kind of put some things into perspective, including, like Simone's future spinoff, Jordan's future after high school. It's definitely a lot to think about. And, I'm curious to see what happens. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And, obviously, out of everything we talked about there, just let me know what you guys think about it. How will Billy and Laura find out about the marriage? Will Simone come out in the hospital? Basically all that kind of stuff. And, also Spencer and Olivia kind of relate to this as well, because they're witnesses and they knew about it. So, this could be big, and curious to see what happens. It's gonna be smashing, that's for sure. And we'll have to wait and find out in tonight's episode. It should be good. And with that thought, I think we've just about reached the point in this episode where I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about everything we talked about here today. And as always, feel free to just go for it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna call you out if I think you're wrong. Let's just have a civil discussion and talk things through. But as always, feel free to like and share this video, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it to help support the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And also feel free to let me know if there's anything else you thought I may have missed, and I may make another video for it, So again, feel free to let me know. New episode tonight. It should be a good one. This is episode 10 of season 3. But for now, this has been Austin Bielik, bringing you All-American videos for the duration of this season. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.